I have been on a real nostalgia fest with the 3D Mortal Kombat titles recently, and it's got me thinking, specifically about the characters that made their debut within them. There is so much potential for many of these characters to be seen again, and in a new way. From the lore, to the move list, to even the visuals, I think there's some unbelievably underrated characters here that I would love to see once more, and hey, we haven't done a countdown video in a while, so why not go over a few of them? I want to mention straight away that although this channel normally covers tournaments, the mechanics, the gameplay, when I say best characters, I mean personally the most standout appearances. I'm not talking about the strongest or the weakest, simply the 5 most memorable characters that have stuck out to me after all these years. My name is Ketchup, and these are what I consider the 5 best 3D Mortal Kombat characters in history. If you enjoy this video and you want to stick around for more, then by all means feel free to subscribe. It only takes a second and it's very much appreciated. Now I would like to say instantly that in regards to characters, you know that I like Reiko. That's no mystery here on the channel. However, I do not consider him to be a 3D era character, as he made his debut in Mortal Kombat 4, which I personally regard as the final arcade title. So, if you're expecting to see him here, or I guess Jarek for mustard, they won't be.
Dramin. A wandering Oni allied with Moloch. Dramin was once a vicious landlord who found himself punished in the flames of hell after his death. Over the centuries, he has achieved the status of Oni Tormentor, and now practices his skills on the miserable souls of the fallen.
We're going to start today with a character that I actually didn't like when I played these games at a younger age, but the older I got, the more I appreciated the design and idea. It's Dramin, making his debut in Deadly Alliance, and his final appearance being in Armageddon. Dramin from a lore standpoint was always a strange one. Well, I guess from every angle, Dramin's a bit of a strange one, isn't he? But he's an Oni from the Netherrealm, banished there for all eternity, climbing his way up as a tormentor and often partnered with Moloch, another character who started in DA but as the game's sub-boss. Dramin always stood out to me in this era, and should he ever appear in a modern title, he'll stand out even more. This character is not your expected design. He isn't human, he isn't a ninja or anything else. He is this decayed monster wielding a vicious iron club on one hand and sports a demonic-looking mask. Special move-wise, he doesn't have a ton of things. He's got his flyball projectile and his ground pound, which, fun fact, was absolutely broken in Deadly Alliance thanks to the power-up, and it's why he was arguably a top 3 character in that game. So the potential of Dramin mostly lies in the character's lore and visuals. You could consider this quite a starting point for a new game. I imagine a character like Dramin would have quite a few different avenues to explore from a gameplay side of things, almost making sure that the utterly vicious nature of Dramin is preserved. Now, let's not forget, there is a strong gameplay difference between cameo and base roster in something like Mortal Kombat 1, but no matter what form he could take, Dramin could be an interesting one to build from.
Nitara. A vampire from a forgotten realm, Nitara fights to keep her homeworld independent. Years ago, her realm was fused with Outworld, throwing it into chaos. Now that her home has been freed, she struggles to maintain its fragile stability.
Another Deadly Alliance character here, and dare I say one of the 3D age's most iconic. It's Nitara, a vampire looking to free her realm from the merge of Outworld. From a story perspective, Nitara is not explained in great detail. However, one of the most notable features of her story is that she comes from what is essentially described as the vampire realm. This means Nitara's origins are something that could absolutely be explored in a bigger way should she ever have a return, and she did debut in Mortal Kombat as the first vampire character. I know that Scarlet has somewhat stolen that thunder in recent years, if we're talking strictly gameplay mechanics, but there is still great potential for Nitara to stand alone in the future. A vampire character stealing an opponent's health is something that has been done many times in many fighting games over the years, and Scarlet's ability to perform new specials which give her life back is a relatively simple approach, leaving many other forms of this design still on the table for Nitara to utilize, separating the two characters in a big way, perhaps. Some vampire characters sacrifice their own life to become more powerful in a match. Some can become progressively stronger and more dangerous the lower their life bar is. My point is that if we're talking mechanics, simply doing a move and stealing health at the same time is the most common use of a vampire design. But there are still many more avenues to explore should Nitara be fully playable in a future game. A fun fact about Nitara, and something actually confirmed in old promotional material, is that the vampire character idea was actually going to spawn 2 fighters once upon a time. There were plans to have both a male and a female character with a similar story and background. Nitara was the only one that made it through, and the male character, whoever he may have been, was left on the drawing board. Imagine a world where they both made it into the game and they had more story to get involved with. I mean, could that have resulted in one of them being in a game we've played in recent years? You know, it's cool to think about. Alternate timelines and all that.
Serena. Once one of Quan Chi's 3 elite lieutenants, the demon Serena had a change of heart, offering to help Sub-Zero to defeat her sorcerer master. This betrayal cost her her human form and brought her years of suffering in the Netherrealm. Now free, she has regained her mortal form and has pledged allegiance to Sub-Zero and the Lin Kuei.
Now, of all the characters in this list, this is possibly the most gameplayless character in the entire video, if that's even a word. This character is on the list through story and idea above everything else, and is a character requested by many fans for a very long time. And although maybe not the same scale as something like the Melina fanbase or something, is still beloved by hardcore fans. I'm of course talking about Serena, the most prominent of Quan Chi's assassins. Now I know some of you might say, wait a minute Ketchup, you said you don't consider Reiko a 3D character, but you've just listed Serena, she started in Mythologies and that wasn't a 3D game. You're right about that, but she wasn't playable until the 3D age, and even if you consider what was technically her first appearance on the Game Boy Advance, that game was based on 3D Mortal Kombat as well, so I definitely think that she counts here. But like I said mere moments ago, Quan Chi's assassins, characters that are a definite part of history, but are almost forgotten by now. Kia, Jataka, and Serena, to be honest, really deserve some kind of modern appearance because their involvement with Quan Chi and Serena's journey of turning against him is a really cool story that I'd like to see more of. A big thing about Serena which interests me from a gameplay sense is the potential. It is said multiple times in various bios that Serena is actually a fighter that has 2 forms. A human-like form, the one that we've seen in almost every game, and here's the thing, a demon form. This is something that is yet to be seen. Can you imagine Serena in a modern game with 2 different forms that she can swap between whenever she wants? Human and demon? That on a base level is something I love in fighting games because, again, different forms in a match is something that we've seen before, but in Mortal Kombat, imagine the possibilities, especially with Mortal Kombat 1. Now, Serena takes her place on my list today, mostly due to story, but also due to potential gameplay creativity. I'm going to be honest, her gameplay in Armageddon, which was her one and only console appearance, is not very interesting. She's just kind of throwing knives and broken mechanics. But that shouldn't dismiss a character entirely. The potential is there in many other ways. But feel free to disagree though. This is simply my opinion. Look, the final 2 here are characters that I have spoken fondly of in the past and will do so again. This is a different list to the video where I talked about characters I'd like to see return one day, but really, they do also take the top of the list for my favourite 3D characters. Their dynamic between each other, the story, and their gameplay possibilities to go so much further in future games should we ever see them again. Now, starting with Hotaru. This character is entirely about order by any means necessary. He is not a good guy. He is not a hero. He is an enforcer of keeping the peace, no matter the cost or means. This kind of character in a new universe is something that can definitely be worked around in some kind of story position. But for me, and this is something I've explained in the past, it's the gameplay and design that makes me remember the character most fondly. Hotaru, even in the 3D games, is a big character. This character stands tall, even more so by the fact that his armor that covers him from almost head to toe is inspired by some kind of insect carapace. Let's not forget that Hotaru's name also stands for Firefly, enforced once again by his special moves, which are about heat, lava, light. His memorable polearm weapon, something that when you think of Hotaru, you think of this armored warrior, taller than most, and a gigantic weapon to fight with. Mortal Kombat historically has actually not had many characters with range on their side due to their size and choice of weapon. It usually comes down to projectiles or something. But with Hotaru, there is a prime opportunity to take a character with a two-handed weapon, creative magma-based special moves, which even visually could look really good with modern technology, a gameplay design that demands respect and enforces control without having to rely on projectiles to do so, and a heavy-hitting, brute force game plan. This is me just kind of imagining how Hotaru could one day turn out, but none of this would even be thought about if it wasn't for a strong foundation of a fun story, a cool visual design, and a memorable place in a almost forgotten era.
Havoc. A denizen of Chaos Realm, Havoc despises order and sees it as a threat to everything in which he believes. His mission is to create mayhem and further unravel the fabric of life. He will also destroy anyone who seeks to control others.
And finally, the character you've probably been expecting and waiting for, Havoc, a cleric of the Chaos Realm. This character is utterly ridiculous, and when people think of a 3D Mortal Kombat character, Havoc comes up in almost every single conversation. Fans are desperate to see him again, myself included, and it all stems from the 3D games giving him a really fun story and even more so a fun gameplay experience. Here's the thing, characters having an element of comedy to their base moves is something that we all know and see in modern games. But back in the mid-2000s, it wasn't as common as you may think. Havoc does all kinds of weird things to perform his specials and finishing moves, and it's all massively to exaggerate his character, a character who is, quite simply, chaos in various forms. Havoc has been seen in a load of character endings, he's had a rather large part to play back in the Mortal Kombat X comic, and even visually stands out on his own, sporting a really cool and interesting design. The fact is, simply put, Havoc is oozing potential for a modern game, and with modern technology and animation, if there's one character the development team could in theory go to town with, Havoc is absolutely that. From the corpse slide, to the spinning torso, to the various taunts and folding projectiles, I can only imagine what this character could have with a modern look, and as we've seen time and time again, older characters being brought back with an up-to-date gameplay vision usually spells good things. Kenshi started in the 3D age, and look at how sophisticated he is in MK1 as the series' first ever puppet character. Bo Raicho in Mortal Kombat X, who was one of the most enjoyable characters in the whole game. Tanya in Mortal Kombat X, Fujin in Mortal Kombat 11. There is so much that can and has been done to give older characters a new vision, and with Havoc, your possibilities are almost endless, while giving the fans what they've been waiting for after so many years. And that's my list of who I consider the 5 best or more memorable 3D characters. By all means, stick around for more content to come, and absolutely let me know if you disagree and what characters you would have put in here instead. That's what these lists are all about, right? It's talking about Mortal Kombat games that we love and remember fondly. Now, thank you all for watching, and I will absolutely see you next time.